Hello there, good afternoon to you and welcome to Football Domain on your number one online television channel CTV. You are listening to the voice of yours truly, Wisdom Chumuba, also known as the principal thing. Football Domain is the show where we get to discuss everything football related. Yes, we get to dissect and serve you fresh information coming from the world of football. So today we've got a very interesting topic for us to talk about, and it has to do with the Super Eagles of Nigeria. Yes, we've gotten a new manager in the person of Bruno Labbadia. Yes, he's a German tactician, but we're going to talk more about him when we return from this quick break. So do well to stay tuned. We'll be right back. Okay, once again, welcome back. You are still listening to Football Domain on your number one online television channel, CTV. I still remain your host, Wisdom Chumuba, here to serve you all the fresh updates coming from the world of football. And like I said before we went on the break, our focus today is on the Super Eagles of Nigeria. So the NFF yesterday, that's on Tuesday morning, in the early hours of the morning, appointed, or announced rather the appointment of Bruno Labbadia as the new head coach of the Super Eagles of Nigeria. Now, this came as a shock to a whole lot of people, considering the fact that, first of all, Bruno Labbadia is not really that known, especially, among the fans or among, the football faithfuls. And the appointment came as a shock to a whole lot of Nigerians, and the reaction of Nigerians on social media wasn't really a pleasant one, although it's been kind of mixed, because I've seen some comments on social media, and people are like, what, we are done with the NFF and their surprises, whatever the manager gets to display, and we'll take it like, why someone like, what, I think I'm done with the NFF and the Super Eagles. Where did this man come from and all of that? But that is not our focus for today. Bruno Labbadia, despite his appointment, yesterday, he doesn't even have time for him to settle and begin to, gel and trying to understand this team. Why am I saying so? Because in less than 10 days' time, he's going to be taking over his first official match as the head coach of the Super Eagles of Nigeria. And that is talking about our Afcon qualifiers coming up on the 7th and the 10th of September. Our first match on the 7th is against Benin Republic, and that match will be at Uyo on the 7th of September, while the next match would be in Kigali on the 10th of September against Rwanda. So that is Bruno Labbadia's first official job as the head coach of the Super Eagles of Nigeria. So Bruno Labbadia doesn't even have any time, to try to gel and try to understand his team and all of that. But it's interesting to know that he has released the team list. Yes, the NFF released the team list, for the Super Eagles already. And but before we talk about that team list, let me just give you some background about Bruno Labbadia for you to know, his managerial career and his past and what you should expect from Bruno Labbadia. First of all, his appointment as the Super Eagles manager has made him the 6th German to coach the Super Eagles of Nigeria. Yes, Bruno Labbadia is now the 6th German to coach the Super Eagles of Nigeria. The first was Karl Matoske, who took charge of the Super Eagles back in 1970. But we've also had the likes of Golieb Gola, we've had Manfred Ona, we've even had the likes of Bertie Vogels in 2007, 2008, and the most recent one is Gennett Raw, who took over from 2016 to 2021. So Bruno Labbadia has, now entered that record, becoming the latest German to coach the Super Eagles. That's making him number 7, to coach the Super Eagles of Nigeria. Well, one more thing you also need to know about Bruno Labbadia is the fact that this is his first national team job. He has never coached any national team before, and that is even the more reason why a whole lot of Nigerians are clamoring, and you're like, oh my God, what have the NFF gone and done this time? But it is what it is. This is his first managerial job, when it comes to the national team. Although he has kind of a wealth of experience when it comes to club football. He's been coaching since 2003, so give or take, that is about 21 years already as a club football manager. That is kind of, a very, very good experience if you ask me. But talking about coaching the national team, he hasn't done that before, in any capacity, either as an assistant or an advisor, nothing. He has never done anything, pertaining to a national team before. But hey, I'm fingers crossed. Let's hope that Bruno Labbadia, gets to step up. But let me also tell you one thing about his record. Even as a manager, as a club football manager, his record doesn't really catch the eye, especially when you get a glimpse at it. Okay, so for Bruno Labbadia, he's taking charge of 487 matches. 487 matches as a manager across 8 different clubs. I'm going to talk about those clubs later, but he's taken over 487 matches in the past with 8 different clubs. He has a win rate of 44%, a win ratio of 44%, and 214 wins, 103 draws, 170 losses. That is his managerial stats, as a manager. And I'm thinking to myself, hey, Bruno Labbadia, what do you have to offer the Super Eagles of Nigeria? What do you have, to offer us? What can you do with this crop of players that you have? But I've seen, some people say that his style of play is a very attractive one, in the sense that one thing with Germans is the fact that they do gen pressing, high press. That is one thing with every German manager you come across. They like to press high, they like to be in your face all the time and all of that. So that is one thing we can expect from Bruno Labbadia, who plays with sometimes he plays with a 4-3-3 formation, sometimes he plays with a 4-2-3-1, however he chooses to play. But one thing is that he is always very intentional about pressing. And for his defensive record, his defensive record is not really that impressive, considering the fact that the kind of teams he's coached and where he's finished and all of that. It's a whole lot, but let's just hope that he gets to do well for the Super Eagles. And finally, before we talk about the team list of the Super Eagles, which has been released, one thing that is scary about Bruno Labbadia is the fact that his managerial record doesn't really seem to be that impressive in terms of how long he has lasted, in a job. So the highest that an average of what's the word to use? The average is spent on a job is about 1.5 years. That is almost like a minimum of 2 years is spent on a job, despite coaching since 2003. To show you that it's not a manager that really lasts, for a very long time on a job. So it's either he gets sacked or he leaves the job. And the longest spell he has ever coached a team was in 2003-2006, where he coached Darmstadt 98. That was the last time he coached a club for about 3 years or so. But others, it's been lesser than that. So guys, that is that for Bruno Labbadia's record. So we're gonna go on a very quick break. Once we come back, we'll talk about the team list of the Super Eagles of Nigeria, and then I'm going to give you updates from games that went down yesterday, and we call it a wrap on today's show. You're still listening to Football Domain on your number 1 online television channel, CTV, and you are in the good company of yours truly, Wisdom Chimuba. So don't go anywhere, guys. We'll be back in a bit. Okay, once again, welcome back to you, our beloved viewers. You are still locked on to your favorite show that is talking about Football Domain, and in the good company of the principal thing, that is myself, Wisdom Chimuba. Yes, once again, you are welcome. Before we went on the break, we've been talking about Bruno Labbadia, the German tactician appointed by the NFF to lead the Super Eagles forward. Let's leave Bruno aside. Let's talk about the team list, which Bruno and the NFF has released. A whole lot of people have had their reservations about this list, but for me, I think personally the team list is okay, considering the crop of players that he brought into the list. It shows that he's deliberate about defending as well as attacking. So without further ado, let me read out the team list for you. Talking about the goalkeepers first, we've got the likes of Stanley Nwabali, who plays for Chippa United in South Africa. Then Maduka Okoye, who is sort of like a rejuvenated player in Udinese these days in Italy. And then we've got Amas Obasoji playing for Bendel Insurance. That is an improvement. Before we usually have Oloruleke Ojo from Eyimba, but now Amas Obasoji is now in the replacement, talking about a player from the NPFL. Now moving over to the defenders, we've got William Troost Ekong, the captain of the side, who is back into the squad, and we've got Bright Osaye Samuel, Olisa Nda. We've also have Bruno Onyemechi. There's Oluwashemi Logo Ajayi, popularly known as Semi Ajayi, and then there's Calvin Bassi, and then there's Ola Aino back in the squad. Moving over to midfield, we have Wilfred Ndidi, Rafael Onyedika, Halassan Yusuf, Dele Bashiru, and there's also Frank Onyedika, and then Alex Iwobi in midfield. And going over to attack, we have Samuel Chukwueze, Victor Osimhen, Kelechi Iheanacho, Victor Boniface, Moses Simon, Ademola Lookman, and Taiwo Awoniyi. Now, if you look at this team list, it's a very interesting one, especially when it comes to the attack. Really, I have to say this is the best attack that we've had in a very long while. And I wonder how Bruno, would set up this team, especially considering the fact that they might want to go with a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-3-1 formation. We know Taiwo Awoniyi, Victor Boniface, they've had issues when it comes to the national team, especially due to injuries. And we know that we've missed these guys, especially in our attack. A whole lot of people are still referring back to the last Afcon, that if we had these three guys, maybe, just maybe, we might have won the Afcon. But it is what it is. Let's hope that this time we get to see them, perform for the Super Eagles, and we get to, have an easy walk over the likes of Benin and Rwanda. Yes, I'm talking about the midfield. There's a certain Calvin Bassi, and that's defense, beg your pardon. Calvin Bassi in defense, and Ola Aino, and Bright Osayi Samuel, Bruno Onyemechi, and the captain himself, Troost Ekong back in the squad. That is, kind of a strong defense for us. And then in midfield, Alex Iwobi, who these days seem to, be burning red hot for Fulham. There's also Dele Bashiru, who has gone to Lazio. There's Wilfred Ndidi, there's Rafael Onyedika, there's Frank Onyeka. I think this squad is a very good squad that should, on paper, get the job done easily over Benin and Rwanda. So that is that for the team list for the Super Eagles of Nigeria. Okay. For our final part of the show, I said I was going to give you some of the updates of the games that went down yesterday. We saw some interesting games yesterday, but before that, I want to tell you how the group stage looks like. That is talking about the table for the Afcon qualifiers. It's kind of a lengthy one because we almost have about 7 groups or so. I'm just going to go alphabetically. Of course, we've got Group A, where we have the likes of Comoros, Gambia, Madagascar, and Tunisia. And then in Group B, there's Central African Republic, there's Gabon, there's Lesotho, and Morocco. Because of our time, I'm not going to do much analysis on that. Really, I would have loved to get your feedback on the team that you tag as the group of death, but we don't have time for that. But you can do well, to drop your comments and sending your reactions as regards the appointment of the new Super Eagles manager in the person of Bruno Labbadia, the German tactician that we would be hoping, can take us to where we are craving to be, and where we've been craving to be for the past few years. Moving over to Group C, we have the likes of Botswana, Cape Verde, Egypt, and Mauritania. And then in Group D, the one that really concerns us, that is talking about the group of the Super Eagles of Nigeria. We have Benin, we have Libya, we have Nigeria, and Rwanda. Now, on paper, this is a no-brainer. The Super Eagles, we are meant to, in fact, dominate this group front and back, head to toe, left, right, and center, and everything. Hey, look at the teams there, Benin, Libya, Rwanda. Hey, come on. But the Super Eagles these days are not really that fearsome as we expect them to be. But nonetheless, the Super Eagles should qualify from that group. No excuses at all. Moving over to Group E, there's Algeria, there's Equatorial Guinea, Liberia, and then Togo. In Group F, we have Angola, we have Ghana, we have Niger, and we have Sudan. In Group G, then there's Chad, Ivory Coast, Sierra Leone, and Zambia. Now, this is one group that is very interesting, talking about Chad, Ivory Coast, Sierra Leone, and Zambia, especially Ivory Coast and Sierra Leone. Those two teams will be going head-to-head in that one. And then there's DR Congo, there's Ethiopia, there's Guinea, and then Tanzania, beg your pardon, Tanzania in Group H. And in Group I, we've got Eswatini, Guinea-Bissau, Mali, Mozambique. In Group J, there's Cameroon, Kenya, Namibia, Zimbabwe, and finally in Group K, Group K, we've got Congo, South Africa, South Sudan, Uganda, and finally Group L, Burkina Faso, Burundi, Malawi, and Senegal. So that is how it stands for the Afcon qualifier in the group stage. So we are going to go for one final break. Once we return, it is going to be updates coming from the games that went down yesterday. We saw so many games go down yesterday, from the La Liga to the Champions League qualification games, and then we also saw some games go down for the Carabao Cup and all of that. So do well to stay tuned. We'll be back in a bit. Okay, once again, welcome back. You are still listening to Football Domain on your number one online television channel, CTV. This is the final part of today's show. If you're just joining us, well, you've missed quite a bit, and we've spoken about the Super Eagles team list as well as our new manager in Bruno Labbadia. I hope you guys get to, give this man much love and support. And we hope that the future is bright for Nigeria. Well, let's go straight to the games that went down yesterday. In the La Liga, we saw two games go down, two interesting games. First off, we saw Mallorca take on Sevilla. That game ended 0-0. And then Barcelona had to do a comeback. And hey, it was their new signing in the person of Dani Olmo, who came off the bench and netted the winning goal for Barca, who, had to win their game 2-1 after coming from behind. The likes of Pedri and Dani Olmo scoring for Barcelona. Yes, so Barcelona, that signing of Dani Olmo justified immediately. And talking about Champions League games that went down, that is the qualifying games for the Champions League. Galatasaray were up against Young Boys, and they lost that game by 1-0, meaning on aggregate they lost by 4-2. The first leg at Young Boys home ended 3-2 in favor of Young Boys. And Young Boys proving that, hey, they are no longer young boys, they are now men. They defeated Galatasaray by 1-0 on aggregate 4-2. So they've secured their spot for the Champions League for the new season. And then RB Salzburg defeated, it ended in a 1-0 draw, Dynamo Kiev. But on aggregate, Salzburg got to qualify, and then Sparta Prague got the better of Malmo FF by 2-0, and on aggregate, got to qualify. And then for the EFL Cup, that is talking about the Carabao Cup in England, we saw quite a whole lot of games go down yesterday, but we're just going to focus on some of the games. Brighton and Hove Albion defeated Crawley Town by 4-0. Brighton, still fresh hot of their victory over Manchester United, and then showing Crawley Town how it is done. Everton smashed Doncaster by 3-0. Leicester City also trumped Tranmere Rovers by 4-0. QPR won Luton Town via penalties. And we also had the likes of Watford defeat Wayne Rooney's Plymouth Argyle by 2-0. 2-0. Birmingham City lost by 2-0 to Fulham, and finally Crystal Palace smashed Norwich City by 4-0. So those are some of the games that went down in the EFL yesterday for round 2. In Germany, some games also went down in Germany. Okay, just a game went down in Germany, and it is VfB Stuttgart who smashed Prusen Munster by 5-0. I'm sure for the people that did the white paper yesterday, a whole lot of them actually cashed out because the score lines I'm seeing were very interesting one. Just to give you updates from the Saudi League, because the GOAT was on the score sheet yesterday as Al Nassr, talking about Cristiano Ronaldo. Al Nassr smashed Al Falia by 4-1, and then Al Reed lost by 1-0 to Al Qadar, and then Al Fatah won by 1-0 to Al Ali. And so that is that for the updates coming from the games that went down yesterday. We also have some games that would go down today, but guys, once again, I would be really happy to see your comments as regards the new Super Eagles manager, and I wonder what you make of his appointment. What are you expecting from him? What is the target? Do you think, for instance, we saw what's his name, our former manager Jose Peseiro got to the Afcon final and lost, and we're like, oh, before that, in fact, the target for Jose Peseiro was get to the semi-finals, and he went beyond that expectation, got to the final and lost. And we're like, it was funny that some people were saying like, nah, it's not good enough, and I was wondering to myself, if Jose Peseiro has actually won the final, hey, would we have said he's a good manager? But the fact that he lost, and some people are like, nah, it was never good at the beginning, it was just a game of luck and all of that. But now this is Bruno Labbadia, and I'm wondering, hey, what is your target for this man? If he doesn't even get to meet that target, would you quickly tag him a failure, or would you give him time and say, okay, you know what, let's see what he can cook up for the Super Eagles? So talking about the games that will go down today in the La Liga, Athletic Club will take on Valencia, Real Valladolid will take on Leganés, Atletico Madrid will take on Espanyol, Real Sociedad will take on Deportivo Alaves, and the Champions League qualification we have Qarabag will take on Dynamo Zagreb, Vezeda will take on Bodo Glimt, Slavia Prague will take on Lille, and then Slovian Bratislava, beg your pardon for that name. God, some of these names are very interesting to pronounce, but it's Slovan Bratislava, that is the correct pronunciation, will take on FC Midtjylland. So thank you very much, guys, for being a part of today's show. It's been a pleasure giving you all of these updates. Do well to have a beautiful week ahead of you. And guys, don't forget Proverbs 4 verse 7, wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore get wisdom, and in all that getting, get understanding. Do have a beautiful day.